Folks, Kellogg here. I'm going to talk about a dirty subject today. I'm going to talk about a subject that very few people want to talk about, and I'm going to give you some real talk, which might be uncomfortable. I've been seeing posts online about people, breaking their line on quote-unquote big fish. I've had people message me about breaking off big fish. Okay. I'm not talking about if you're snagged in the rocks or snagged on a log or snagged on the boat or something like that. What I'm talking about is fish in open water, out in the middle of the lake, over anywhere from, 80 to 250 feet of water. You hook a big fish and you snap the line. That is 100,000% your fault. Whenever I've broken a fish off in open water without a tangle or snagging the boat or something like that, 100,000% my fault, user error. I lost that fish because I screwed up. Okay? I'll tell you a story. A number of years ago, I was out at Tulloch Reservoir in November with Monty Smith. Monty's a dear friend and a wonderful guide, Gold Country Sport Fishing. We were just out fishing for fun. But Monty was getting after some big rainbows, and he was pulling threaded night crawlers, side planing them with those small Seps inline side planers. So we had a few fish, and we were still looking for that big one, and we were seeing bald eagles and deer. It's raining a little bit, and in short, we were having a really good time. Well, I don't remember what happened, but we messed up one of the rods. So we grabbed a new rod out of the rack, we rigged it up, we scoped it out. You know what happened next. A few minutes later, we hook Mr. Big. Fish is fighting. Fish makes one run and the rod bends. I'm trying to loosen the drag. The fish surges away again and snaps 12-pound P-line CXX. My fault. I put a new rod into play and I didn't check the drag. That's on me. I lost that fish, and we ended up not getting a big fish that day. We caught several more rainbows, but we didn't get the monster that we were hoping for. So let's talk a little bit about why your line is breaking in those kind of situations. Number one reason, your drag is set too tight. That's number one reason. Number two reason, you had your drag set properly. You hooked a really big fish, you didn't think you were gaining enough line, and you reached down and you tightened the drag. The fish broke the line. Number three reason, you think it's more pro to use really light line than it is to use heavier line. And that's great when you're catching pan-sized fish and kokanee and whatnot. But when you're using a 4-pound test leader or even a 6-pound test leader and you catch a big king salmon 7 or 8 pounds, or you catch a 7 or 8 pound rainbow, guess what? You make one mistake, that light line snaps. I seldom, if ever, go below 8-pound test on my leader, always fluorocarbon. And most of the time I'm using 10. Fluorocarbon reflects light at the same rate as water. The fish can't see it, so there's no need for you to go super, super light. You're asking for trouble. Fourth reason people lose fish, their knots are not perfect. Practice your knots. If you need to practice your knots. If you tie a knot that is questionable, cut it out and retie it. Because if you put a questionable knot into the game, guess what's going to happen? A big fish is going to come knocking. It's like they have ESP, guys. And you're going to snap that fish off. You're going to lose that fish. Happens a lot. Okay? What are we on? The fifth reason you lose fish. You're not checking your line. You're not checking your leader. You're not making sure that you have fresh line that's not tore up, line that's not all twisted. And when your tackle is in sad shape, again, those big fish have ESP, guys. That's when a big fish is going to come knocking when you least expect it and you aren't prepared. Now, a lot of guys are fishing Folsom Lake right now, and they're using a double hook rig in hoochies for king salmon. They're saying, well, I caught a really big salmon and my line snapped right between the hooks, and man, that fish was a hog because, I'm using 12 or 15 pound test and it's not my line. That fish was so big that his teeth cut me off. There's no way, guys. There's no way. I've caught halibut on 15 pound test and they have a heck of a lot more teeth than a king salmon at an inland reservoir. Okay? Here's the deal. Here's why those fish are being lost. That guy probably caught fish on that hoochie prior to that and messed up the line between the hooks with the pliers while taking those fish off the hook. Guess what? The line was nicked or a little bit roughed up. That big fish came knocking and snapped it off. And I suspect, because a lot of guys are running ocean-sized salmon gear out there that has a significant amount of drag, they're using big ocean-sized flashers, I'm betting that their drags are turned down pretty tight. A braided line and a tight drag, recipe for disaster. Just the way it is. Here's how you avoid all these problems. Make sure your tackle is always ready for a big fish. Use realistic weight line, okay? We catch more pan-sized fish than we catch really big fish, but you've got to be planning to catch a big fish. That means using 8 pound test leader material at a minimum, making sure your knots are perfect, checking your line, checking your tackle, making sure you don't have a rough spot or a nick. Don't be lazy. Lazy costs you big fish. There's no excuse for losing a big fish in open water other than the fact that it is 100,000% your fault. Last but not least, after every single fish you land, check that leader and check it again, and periodically throughout the day, check your drag. Check your drag. That's too tight. Check your drag and make sure that your drag is loose enough to handle a big fish. Now, I just caught a fish and I must have hit that star drag because it was too tight. I like a light drag. I can always tighten my drag a little bit if I need to. Generally speaking, I like to wear out my fish away from the boat, and that means a light drag is the right drag. And I land about 90% of the big fish that are hooked on my kayak and in the guide boat. I rarely lose a big fish unless we see it and it just shakes the hook. I can't recall the last time I lost a big fish because I snapped my line in open water. It just should not happen. If it does, you've shot yourself in the foot. Take this real talk to heart, guys. It's going to help you catch more and bigger fish throughout your fishing career. You're going to have pictures of big fish, you're going to have big fish fillets, and you're not going to be weaving a cloud of excuses as to why you broke 10 or 12 or 15 pound test fighting a fish in open water. Again, I'm passionate. It should not happen. Those big bites are too hard to come by to shoot yourself in the foot. I'm Cal Kellogg, out of here for now. If you're looking for fishing gear, you know where to go. FHSfishing.com. Get them on the hook and get them in the net. I'm pulling for you guys. I want to see you do well. I'm out of here for now. I'll catch you next time right here on YouTube.